Welcome to the Massimo Show. Hey, this is Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show, and we're so excited to have a very special guest today, Mrs. Summer Mulder. And wow, to say she's a little bit of everything, I can't say just be. Wonder Woman doesn't actually give it justice to what this person is. She is a little bit of everything. Author, entrepreneur, mother, stepmom. She's a kick-ass person. That's all I can tell you about it. So we're not even delay. We're going to jump right into it. Summer, welcome to the Massimo Show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you. And that was an incredible intro. You made me feel awesome.
Well, the fact is you are awesome. I know you from our days back at Coach, but I've been following you and watching you, and this massive, it's beyond the work that you're doing and the passions you have. And we'll get into those passions and what you're doing. But let's start off with the little girl, Summer, the little girl. So where did you grow up? And what was your passion in those preteen, teen years? Tell us about that.
So I grew up north of LA in a little town, not so little, called Westlake Village, suburbs. I grew up with a dad who was an entrepreneur. So I saw what it was like to have that life. I saw ups, I saw downs. I also, most importantly, saw this lifestyle that he had created that was just normal in my life. I saw my dad every day right after school. It wasn't him coming home at, 8 or 9 o'clock. And it's so funny to me because you know how there's kids that are, or entrepreneurs that are just like, I had a lemonade stand, or I was selling candy bars. I was a business guy from the very beginning. And I wasn't really. I mean, when you asked me as a little girl what I wanted to be, I was like, well, I'm going to be a mom one day. That's what I'm going to do. And I didn't quite know. I did have dreams. I knew that I would get into these really cool conversations with my dad. I knew that I loved marketing. I didn't know it was called that at the time, but I knew that I loved advertising and like commercials and like, wouldn't it be cool if people did this? Wouldn't you want to buy this if they did it this way instead? I was really always fascinated with that. So I didn't know that at the time, but looking back, I can see that I was always passionate about storytelling. So I then growing up, I got into writing, and everything that I studied in college and most everything that I did, even when I started a business after college, the main thing that I did was copywriting and writing and storytelling, even ghostwriting books for other authors. So I guess that was my passion, was storytelling.
Okay, but the passion is one thing, and that could certainly lead to a job. And when I grew up in Long Island, New York, and my father made a transition from corporate to owning his own firm, and I saw the impact and just saw him more and saw actually the money start to accumulate, which I guess I didn't, like you said, I thought it was normal. I didn't think it was anything different, right? Until we all go out and get our own first job and realize this is not what it is. So let's talk about that. Where did you go to school and what was your first job?
I went to Pepperdine in Malibu, obviously gorgeous. And, first jobs, some jobs, I guess in college, I did have my little businesses that I ran, which were party planning for kids' birthday parties. And I also worked at a smoothie shop. I probably juggled about 3 different jobs plus babysitting, trying to make it all work. I was working at clothing stores, I was working at gift shops, and I was working at all of them at the same time. So it was, a shift here, a shift there, just trying to make it all work.
So at Pepperdine, did you study writing, or what was your focus and where'd that lead to?
So my focus actually, right when I started, was theater, and then quickly moved into creative writing. And I was taking screenwriting classes, playwriting classes, doing a ton in marketing and communications. And at the time I was doing performances at the school, and the theater director had said to me, you have to take all these stagecraft classes, all these things that I know you don't want to do, which is true. I didn't want to build sets. I wanted to be on them or behind the scenes, writing scenes. And he said, we're going to Europe next summer for a theater program, and I'd really like you to come along, and I want you to be in the show. And I thought, wow, that would be awesome. And he's like, so I have an idea for you. You're spending all this money at college. You want to make sure you're taking the things that you want. So he actually helped me come up with what they called a contract major. So I was able to create my own major that didn't fall under just one thing. And I kind of did the things that I really loved, which was creative writing, storytelling, and also marketing and communications and advertising.
Perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
So do you remember out of school your first real job? And did you think this is a job versus a career? What were your thoughts?
I had the real tax-paying jobs, but the hardest job for me was my internships. So I went and I interned at one of the very top, I think it's the top 3 talent agency out in LA. And it was ICM, International Creative Management. So I got to see all the celebrities, all the actors. It was really cool. But at the same time, it was super high pressure. So I got to listen into these crazy meetings, but I had to be like on demand. I mean, sometimes I was there on a school break. I'd be there filling in for the assistant I was interning for, sometimes 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at night, and then still working after that, listening to the meetings that were happening on a call to make sure that I was taking notes so I knew what went into a certain contract. That was, to me, the most high pressure, unpaid job that I'd had at that point.
So your dad was an entrepreneur. Natural to you was working for yourself or building your own business. So I know you have several businesses, but let's go back to the first business. What was your first post-school official company?
The first company that I had started, like legitimate company, was with my ex-husband. And that was all based on, it started as a credit repair business. And at the time, he was struggling with his credit. And he's like, how am I going to fix my credit? And he started researching, and this is like right at the beginning. I feel like when you could actually get information on the internet, you could actually search for something and find information. So he was actually able to do that pretty quickly and successfully. And he's like, this could actually be a product. And he wrote an entire book on it and created this info product, which was so brand new at the time, and then it became info marketing. And then we started working with people that would actually start to promote it. Then we got into affiliate marketing. And I'm sure anybody who's, been through the internet marketing phase, especially if you're my age, you remember these days. And it was just so cool. And we built that business, which then turned into another business because we realized we can teach people how to build an online business, and we can teach them how to write copy for their ads, and we can teach them how to set it up. And it just like really took off because it was at a time when people were like, how cool would it be to work from home and not actually have a product that I have to manufacture and ship out? I can actually just sell really valuable information that can change people's lives. And so that's what we did. And that was probably the first like real deal, holy cow, we are winning at life. I learned a ton from that business, which was great because, we were in our 20s. So there's so many things that we did really well. And then there's so many things that we were like, wait, what? We didn't know business like we should, but it was a great learning lesson. And when we did get divorced, we sold that business. But having that business was such a huge launching pad for me going off to do other things and then ultimately starting the Draw Shop.
Okay, before we get to the Draw Shop, I want to go back to this business. Yeah. And I'm listening to your tone and your voice, and I'm closing my eyes, and I realize that you were actually Amy Porterfield before there was an Amy Porterfield. You are the original Amy Porterfield. It sounds like it. It really does.
Obsessed with Amy Porterfield, so that's like the biggest compliment ever. I love Amy Porterfield. I actually have a great picture with her. Yeah, I think she's amazing.
I think she's incredible.
Me too.
I think she's incredible, and I know she started her business, I think around 2008-9, I believe.
Yeah.
So you were way before then. I mean, at least you were before then. And that's awesome. But you said, to help our listeners, because some people thinking, okay, she did all the right things. What were some of the things, looking back at that first company, you would say, wow, if I only knew different, I would have done this? So what mistakes did you make that you look back and gone, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. Instead, we probably should have done this?
I will say this. I will say that you are forever learning as an entrepreneur, which is great. I think it's actually a wonderful thing, and it's actually pretty exciting. Gary Vaynerchuk will always say when there's people in that crisis mode or they're like, I totally messed this up. He's like, you know what? I envy you. This is a great place to be in. So like when I've learned things that I'm like, shoot, we should have been doing this differently. My husband, who's also an entrepreneur, will say to me, he's like, this is awesome. You should be excited right now because now you get to change it and make it better. Mm-hmm. And it's true. It's so true. And sometimes it's painful. Mistakes are painful, but they have to be in order for you to change things up and do it better. So some of the very big things that I had learned, even having had a father who was an entrepreneur, you sometimes don't hear those lessons. Your parents might tell you something, just like when you're a kid growing up, they might tell you something to steer you in the right direction, or don't do this because this might happen. And they're really just words to you. You know, you hear them and you might make a different choice, but really you have to feel the pain of a mistake for you to get that lesson. And some big ones that I had learned from having a business, especially younger, was really understanding your financials. I mean, honestly, as a young person, you can get so excited. You're just like, oh my gosh, I've got this, at the time, multi-million-dollar company. Like, this is crazy. This is exciting. And the money is exciting. But you start to say yes to so many things. People are trying to sell you this way of advertising. They're trying to sell you so many different things, and you get so excited, right? And you make those choices without really understanding how that's going to impact your business. So I'm such a name dropper of people that I follow and love, but Keith Cunningham, for example, wrote The Road Less Stupid. We did a video with him. He's incredible. Another person that I just like, oh my gosh, where were you when I was 20? But you're here now. But, you know, I learned a lot of the things that he talks about through those mistakes, and he talks about thinking time. And if I could give like one big, huge piece of advice, it would be to really, really think. Look at numbers, look at processes, look at how you're doing something, and really think about it. Look at where you're struggling, or where you feel there's a bottleneck, or where you feel you are not as profitable as you should be, and just think about it. Just think. Just take the time to just look at it and go, how could this be done differently? What have I been doing? And if I keep doing this, is it going to improve? I don't think so. So in terms of financials, that was a big lesson. In terms of customer experience, that was huge. Learning that things, when a customer buys from you, it shouldn't be something that's just a transaction. You really want that to be a full-on experience. You want to have that person loyal to you and coming back for more, because I know in our business, we love our clients that have been with us for 5 years plus. And it's because of that relationship and that experience we give them. It's not just about the front end of, here's what I can offer you, let me take your money. It's about the before experience, it's about the during experience, and it's also about the after experience as well. And that was a huge lesson, because I think in the very beginning, things were very transactional with our customers. And I didn't really understand, oh my gosh, they should be getting ongoing value. So those are some really, really big things that I've brought into business later. And then I could go on and on. I told you I can go on and on about just marketing in general. And that's
okay. Well, let's take a break from that, because you got so much great insight. I want to talk about a bunch of that stuff. I remember one thing my dad told me, which I didn't understand until later on, was sometimes the best decision you'll make is saying no to an opportunity. And it's funny, I just did this morning. This morning, I actually said no to what people thought was a big opportunity. And I looked at where I'm going and what we're doing and said, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Financially, maybe it would be nice, but that's not what it's about. So I love where you come from. By the way, we're going to talk about Gary Vee in a minute, because it's talking about Gary Vee, and I know what you're doing on the parenting end. I'm curious about your thoughts about that. So when we come back to the Massimo Show for our next session with Summer Mulder, we're going to talk about, Amy Porterfield with Gary Vee, but more importantly, about her latest venture, her books, and everything else she's doing, and how amazing this person is, and everything she's accomplished, and so much more to go. So hold on, we'll be right back with this next session of the Massimo Show. Hi, this is Rod Santomassimo, president and founder of the Massimo Group. And did you know that for over the past 11 plus years, we've worked with thousands of independent contractors, solopreneurs, and small business owners just like you in repositioning their and/or their team's efforts so they can build the personal, professional practice they've always dreamed of. We provide coaching programs for all levels of experience, earnings, and yes, success. So if you're finally ready to get off that transaction treadmill and chasing deals that are growing nowhere, and start building the personal, professional business and life consisting of greater wealth and more time, well, check us out at Massimo.coach. That's Massimo.coach. Hey, this is Rod Santomassimo. We're back with the second session with Summer Mulder. Wow, multi-million-dollar company in her 20s, and that was only the beginning. She understood social media. She understood coursework. She understood everything. She created it without knowing it, probably way back before it becomes so commonplace today. So Summer, let's continue. I know you as the co-founder of the Draw Shop. That's how I know you as. So what is the Draw Shop? And, you know, my wife might have left my accent, Draw Shop, the Draw Shop. And what is it? How is it created? And tell us a little about that venture.
So after I got divorced and my ex-husband and I had sold the business that we had, I was at this place of figuring out what is it that I'm going to do. And so for a period of time, I knew that I was a good copywriter. I could do that. That was something I could do. And it was something I could do while I had my young babies, because they were babies at the time. So I'm, you know, kind of doing that whole single mom thing. And along the way, with the various authors that I was working with, I ended up meeting who would be my co-founder in the Draw Shop, and that was Eric Kerr. And we met and we started, I think we probably knew each other actually for a couple of years before we actually started the Draw Shop. And it really came out of different conversations. And then one day he sends me a video that another company did, not because they were a company that produced these videos, but because they were just trying to do something cool out of a TED Talk. And they took a TED Talk and they took a very complex topic and they made it really easy to understand. And they did that by drawing on a whiteboard all of these different ideas. And he sent it to me. And at the time, I'm trying to remember. It wasn't that easy to see. It was a smartphone. It was like when smartphones just came out. Mm-hmm. And so I watched it and I was like, that's amazing. That would kill it for a sales letter. And being like the online marketer that I was like, I am actually working with a client who really needs video. We've got to do this and I want to test it. And within 2 weeks, we found an artist. I wrote the script. We just like pulled it together because I was like, this is going to be amazing. And it's funny looking back, the quality of it was so poor compared to today, but we didn't care. We were like, we're going to do this and it's going to be awesome. And we made a little studio in Eric's garage. We set it up. We got the artist. We tried to finagle the lighting and the camera. I mean, it was like, talk about rigging something together. We had no idea what we were doing. So we put it together and I sent it over to my client and I said, I want you to test this over your control video that you're using now. And he did. And oh my gosh, so quickly, it just like doubled in conversions and on day one. And we were just like, what? We got referrals. And then basically we took the money that we were getting, which really we said, just pay us the cost to make these because we want to see what we can do. Mm-hmm. So we took that money, we sold a couple of other ones. And then we said, you know what, we're going to go sponsor an event. And so we sponsored an event where there were a bunch of internet marketers. And we thought we're going to get in front of the right people. And I mean, we really like did this on a shoestring budget because we were like, we're just taking everything. We never spent any of our personal money. It was incredible. We really just spent the money that we had coming in and we bootstrapped the whole thing. And we were lucky that we both realized the value of networking and reaching out to people that we knew to get business. We were still working our other job. So he was vice president of another company and really good at sales. And I was still ghostwriting and copywriting for my clients. And then it got to the point where it was too much to juggle. We were wearing all the hats in this new business we were trying to build. And we said, we got to close out the other stuff and we're going all in. And it was scary as hell. But we did it. We went all in and we just kept building and building. And some news for you is just this summer, I actually took full ownership of the Draw Shop.
Oh, so congratulations.
Still my good friend, but he's doing some other things and now it's all me.
Let's talk about the Draw Shop. So how old is it now?
Right now, it's about 10 years old.
How many folks do you have working with you? Maybe they're contractors, maybe they're employees, but how many folks are working with you?
Yeah, so we've got about 12 people that are in our offices, and then we've got probably close to 20 more that are contractors.
And I'm assuming most of the contractors are artists. Is that a fair assessment?
Artists, copywriters, voiceover artists, yes.
Who's a typical client, if there's any such thing, of, you have your avatars. We have 3 or 4 here at the Massimo Group, but for you, who is your typical client? What do they look like? The size of the businesses? Are they solopreneurs? Are they large entities? Who are they?
It's actually changed quite a bit because in the beginning it was the infopreneur, it was the entrepreneur that was selling information and they were using these videos for sales letters. And what's happened now is our clients are We do work with a lot of startups and we do work with a lot of coaches and authors like we used to, but really a lot of our clients are bigger corporations now. So they're big financial advisors, big firms. We're working with healthcare companies like Kaiser or Blue Shield or Aetna. We're working with companies like Netflix or biotech companies. And the reason we're working with those type companies is not because we're doing commercials for them that you would see. We've done those, but really the value is in training their teams and also in the pitches that they're doing with other businesses. Companies like a Thermo Fisher or a Lockheed Martin, who are constantly coming out with the coolest technologies and products, they're hard to explain. And so even with just the pictures of it, to be able to draw out and go into the inner workings of what it is that their value is and what this product or service does. Internal training, new hires. So training teams that are first coming on, because there are some companies that are constantly hiring new people. And so they need to understand, here are the operations of our company, or here are the things that we stand by. Here is the mission.
Let me ask you a question, because somebody be saying, well, what's the impact or the deliverable or the application, I guess, more so of a drawing animation versus just a video? So what's so advantageous about the drawing itself over video?
Great question. So from the beginning of the company until today, we just now do it better. The main goal has always been letting people not have to do so much work in their brain. Let's take the responsibility of your brain having to think further by hearing something complicated. Let's take that away so that you can just watch and get it. Because when people get something, there is like this dopamine hit that they're like, oh, and they are automatically more invested. They're connected now because they get it. It makes them feel smart. They understand it. And so with the drawing, it's not so much just a drawing. We actually do different kinds of cartoon animation. What we've done is worked with actual neuroscientists to say, okay, what kinds of things need to be drawn? What are the times when people have to see a word pop up on the screen so that there's that, oh, got it. Synapses are connecting here. And even more than that is, how are we writing scripts? So you can write something that sounds fun and cool, but at the end of the day, we want that person to walk away going, cool, I'm not confused at all. I get it. We actually follow a lot of Don Miller story brand, building a story brand.
I was about to bring up Don Miller. I actually spent 2 days with Donald Miller and his group in Nashville.
I did too.
Yes, did you?
Yes. I'm actually a certified guide. So
are you? Okay.
Yes,
one of my former team members was a certified guide. We thought so highly of his clarification of message, the many, we, so that format, all that. It's a small world. That's the beauty of it. So yes, I love Don Miller.
We do a book club with our team. And so I said, oh my gosh, we have to read this book. They're going to love it. And they fell in love with it. And so they've all done the whole workshop and have gone through it. So I'm so proud of that, because not everybody knows who it is. And if they don't know, we'll go, oh, well, let us send you a book. We'll send you a Build Your Story Brand book, because he is all about clarifying your message. And what does he say all the time? If you confuse them, you lose them.
That's it.
When we work with our clients, everything, when we are asking questions, we are building their scripts, their videos, everything is based on that framework, because it works. Unless, of course, somebody has something different, like we have to do this verbatim. We totally get it. But for people that are like, we're having a hard time getting people to understand what we do, or we're having a hard time retaining our employees, we're having a hard time selling our products, and we'd like to reduce that sales cycle so that people get it without having to ask a bunch of questions. And it's like, great, you just need to clarify your message, and we can do that for you.
I love it. It's a small world indeed. Hey, we're going to come back for a final session with Summer, and we're going to talk about everything beyond the draw shop and this amazing company she's built. But the other thing she has interest in, the novel she's written, the passion she has. And yeah, we're going to talk about the word push. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Mrs. Summer Mulder, the Beyond Wonder Woman in entrepreneurship. Hi, this is Rod Santomassimo, and happy holidays. Look, we want to give you the gift of personal improvement. We want to put you in position that 2020 will be your best year yet. So, starting December 17th on our website, that's massimo-group.com, we're going to post for free our 7 days to your best CRE year yet workbook. All the exercises, all explanations there for you for free to download. So check it out. And let's make sure that in 2020, that's your best year yet. Okay, welcome back to the Massimo Show with our special guest, Summer Mulder. If you're not impressed now, then, well, I guess you're dead. But the fact is, this dynamic powerhouse of a person is going to really tell us what else is going on. Summer, I'm going to throw some things at you for some quick hits. You brought the name up. I spent a day with Gary Vaynerchuk and his team earlier this year, and then I was in New York last week, and I actually got some free time with someone on his team over coffee and talk about some marketing things we're working on. But Gary is, well, I guess, people don't know Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm shocked. But let's just say he is you're too young to know this, the Lee Iacocca of certain generations, the Steve Jobs of other generations, but he is the marketing maven of today. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, he talked about patience. You said we need to be more patient and realize we're going to make mistakes and understand that. But now he's diving into a different arena lately, it seems. I'm an avid listener. In fact, one of our podcasts is a discussion Gary and I had together during our time together. But he's moving into the parenting scope a little bit. And that seems to be one of your fortes, parenting. So I say that because you actually have another interest called, is it Everything Always? Is that correct?
Yep.
Tell us a little about Everything Always and where that fits in your life and maybe your business.
Everything Always stemmed from me being a stepmom and a mom and blending a family together. So as you've heard earlier, I was divorced. And I had my 2 kids. I am married again, and I met my husband over 11 years ago, and he had 2 young children, and we came together and we blended our family. And we were probably amongst all of our friends, kind of the only ones that were in that situation. And after so many years, we started having other friends, sadly, going through divorce and then meeting somebody who had kids. And they would come to us to ask us for advice. And we were like, oh my gosh, we've done so many things wrong. Right. At the same time, we've done a lot right, that has really worked for our family. So yeah, of course, we'll share with you. And people started asking all these questions. And it just became this topic that I was so passionate, if that's the word. I care a ton. I have a ton of empathy for children. And I've been lucky, so many people say you've got to come from adversity in order to do something great. Well, my adversity probably came from getting divorced. That's when the adversity started to come. Getting divorced, starting a new business, dealing with exes and stepchildren, blending a family, then starting another business, and all the trials and tribulations. That's where adversity really came for me. So it wasn't really my childhood. What I felt so great about was that I felt so strong in dealing with all of the adversity that I had because of my awesome childhood. And I thought to myself, if I could have one wish in this world, it would be that every child could have that feeling of security, no matter what, whether mom and dad are together or not. Can they at least feel secure? And so often what happens in broken families is that the first thing they feel is insecure. Mm-hmm. And so I started to really talk about this a lot with my friends who were going through this. And I would tell them, key things that my husband and I have always done, which is like, do not talk poorly about your ex-spouse. That's still their parent. Or don't make them feel bad about this, or make sure you're honoring their feelings, have empathy. Don't make your problems theirs, all these things, because it was always about making them feel secure, because from that secure space, they are already going to have enough to deal with becoming a teenager. Maybe if they're entrepreneurs, starting their own business, trying to get a job, going through all of these things are enough stress as it is. Can we at least create that foundation for them where they feel I got legs and I'm good and I'm grounded? So I said, I kind of want to start a podcast. I already have a business podcast, but you know what? So many things that I've learned in business actually apply to family as well.
Sure.
And then my husband at the time said, well, if you're going to do that, I want to do it with you. And he's like, I've never done a podcast, but I want to do it with you. And I was like, well, that's even better, because it should be both of our perspectives, not just mine. And sometimes he and I have a different perspective of things. And we're like, you know what, this is a great podcast episode. Let's actually talk about this and work through it so people can hear us working through it together. So it's been a journey, and we've told our listeners, we're not the experts, but we've done it long enough that we've got some value to bring. And that's the whole purpose, is learn from us, learn with us. And we want to bring you along on that journey. And we've had our kids on the episodes, and it's been really awesome because it's something that's brought he and I closer together.
Of course.
It's really put a really special focus on our family. It's brought our whole family closer together, not just us in our relationship. And I think it's been a really good example to the kids as well. And at the same time, we bring in our lessons from being entrepreneurs, because there are those tough moments where you're just like, oh my gosh, the climb right now is so hard. I do not know if I can get to the top. How am I going to get to the top? This is way too hard. And that happens when you are co-parenting. It happens in just a regular family dynamic, but especially when you are co-parenting with someone that you might not get along with, especially if you're married to somebody whose ex might be hard, like, to deal with. You just don't know you might have a stepchild that you're like, I don't get along with this person, or these two kids don't get along. There are struggles, and this stuff happens even when you're running a business as an entrepreneur.
Well, it's amazing what you're doing. When I think of you, and we talked about this offline, there's a word you use, and I want you to expand on this word, because you're a driven person. It's obvious. I mean, I'm sure you've done the Colby and the discs. I do the Colbys and the AVAs. We use AVAs for all our members here and all our clients. But if I was going to do an AV on you, there was 4 verticals, right? There's level of assertiveness. I'm thinking pretty damn high. There's level of sociability. I'm thinking pretty darn high. There's calmness. I'm thinking pretty darn low. And then there's conformity or structure, which by nature of any assessment, disc, Colby, doesn't matter. It has to be 2-dimensional. So naturally, I think it'd probably be lower on your end. You're more of a highly assertive, highly social person. I believe. I could be wrong. But overall, you have this concept called push, P-U-S-H. What does push mean to you?
This has come from my obsession with my Peloton bike. And I am obsessed. I've now gotten my husband obsessed. We are about to get the treadmill.
No, it's not the treadmill. It's the tread.
The tread. Exactly. It's the tread. But yeah, it's interesting because, when you're working out and you want to get results, all the instructors on there, they're not only great instructors, but they're like my motivational coach. They're like my Tony Robbins on demand. But the things that they say really hit home on a business level as well as the physical level, because really in business and in physical, whenever you're wanting to make a change, it is a mental game. And in order to be on top of your mental game, you've got to be in control of your mindset, and you've got to be able to push through when it gets really, really, really uncomfortable. And not just uncomfortable like, okay, this is, I don't really want to be doing this. I'm talking about uncomfortable like I am breathless, or I have anxiety, or this is like, it is daunting. And whenever you can push through those moments, you have just grown exponentially. And so when I talk about push, it is about those moments, like when I've been on a bike and she's like, look, the instructor will say, I'm not there in the room with you, so I don't know whether you're doing this or not. You have to answer to you in this moment. Mm-hmm. And if you're pulling back, if you're stopping before I counted down, and it's true. And you've got to live with yourself in that moment. And at the end of the day, I want to know that I have left everything on that bike. So when she says, this is your all out, put everything out like in this, 30 seconds or whatever it is. It's like in my mind, I'm like, if I can do this, I can do anything. I can literally do if I can push through these awful, hard moments, the feeling on the other side is so dang good. Like, it's just like, holy crap, I just did that. I just did what most people won't do in a lifetime. And it's true. There are so many people that won't even get on a bike and break a sweat once in their life, or at least once a month. They're not doing it. And so I think of things like that. And I want other people to realize too, like, you think you can't because you think you're not supposed to get so uncomfortable. And I feel like you should. I don't think if it were easy, you would enjoy it as much. And I've got this, I always have this quote on my phone that says, the view from the top is so much more beautiful after that climb. I'm not saying it exactly the right way, but it's true. I mean, I've climbed mountains, like actual backpacking, climbed Mount Whitney, and you look down and you appreciate it so much more than if you were just put there. And you can't outsource that feeling. You really can't outsource that. You've got to get it from doing it yourself. So those times when you're like, that's going to be really, really hard, I'm just like, heck yeah, it's going to be hard. And that's what's awesome about it. That is absolutely the awesome part.
Well, that's the push. And what we're going to do is we're going to have actually a bonus session with Summer, because I know what you're thinking. Okay, worked out, fitness guru, novelist, entrepreneur, mom, different podcasts, more interests. How the hell does she do it all? And we're going to talk about that in our special bonus session with Summer Mulder when we come back with the Massimo Show. Summer Mulder, entrepreneur extraordinaire, mother, business owner, Captain Fantastic. I don't know what to say about her. She's everything. But the question is, Summer, last time I looked, when I woke up this morning, there were only 24 hours since the last time I woke up. So it seems like, gosh darn it, you're getting more done than me, which really most people don't, so it pisses me off. So how are you doing it? How do you control your time, your family, your balance? I hate that word, life balance. It's all integrated into one. So how do you do it?
I agree with you, by the way. I don't really know what balance feels like. So I know that it's this wonderful thing, like life balance, but different things require different parts of you at different times. But in terms of how do I do it all? Sometimes I just don't.
It's important, very important.
And I actually have to give myself grace for that. But I am somebody that is probably, my husband says I am obsessed with productivity and I'm obsessed with time management. First and foremost, the most important thing, and this is for me, and I would venture to say it's actually important for a lot of people, even if they don't know it, but having order. So having things in order, like my space, I'm a big fan of Marie Kondo, the magic art of tidying up. So my space, I need to have organized. Typically, I don't have like a lot of paperwork or things going on. And that's not to say that you can't be productive having a messy desk. For me, though, messy space means messy mind. So I like to have things in order. I designate times for certain things. So the biggest practice that I have that I've been doing for a really long time is having that kind of brainstorm once a week of what are all the things that I want to get done and what needs to be done and what can be pushed out for later. Not necessarily the not to-do list, but the to-do later at another time list. And then I'll take those things and then I will map out what needs to get done and I will assign a time on the calendar for those things to get done. And I also look at what can be outsourced to my team. And I literally calendar the week down to the me time. Like if I want to go get my hair done, that's calendared. No one's going to mess with that time.
That's right.
I need to be done. If my husband says, hey, you got to stop talking about work at 6 o'clock and it's family time, then it's blocked out on our calendar. We both have, that's it. That's what we're doing. So everything gets assigned its time, and I'll have days, from being with coach, I will have days that are more task oriented. Here's what I need to get through and get out to the team and check in on. And then there's days that are super focus days. So there will be days, just the days that are only for recording podcasts or time slots that are only for answering emails. I'm not a person that has a whole system. I just share what I do to stay on top of it. And I like to have my, here are the 3 amazing things that could happen today that I will, if nothing else gets done and these get done, then I'm calling it a good day.
Oh, that's awesome. And I will tell you, some of the number one question I'm asked whenever I speak across the country or travel or even our clients, they say, well, Rod, what's the silver bullet? What's the one thing I need to do? And you and I both know there is no such thing. There is silver buckshot. You do a lot of little things consistently and you're going to do really well. But I do say, look, let me look at your calendar. And they're surprised when I ask that question, because you're not allocating time correctly like you are. You cannot make it through. You can't. It can't happen. So I concur complete with you. Now, here's the scary part, folks. We just touched the iceberg on the amazing element that is Summer Mulder. We just touched the iceberg. So we had to have her back because there's so much more to her, so much deeper going on in her life and her business and everything else that we all can learn from. So we're definitely going to have her back. Summer,